Hey Kennedy, how's it going?
It's going good.
Thanks for doing this little interview with us.
Of course, I had a well-timed wine sip.
You've been acting for a while. Tell us a little bit about your background and your personal story in the industry.
Yeah, before I even started doing TV film, I grew up doing musical theater and always loved that. But then when I started doing TV film, I think I was like 15 years old. And it was really cool, and I think in like less than a year I booked a Nickelodeon show. I booked Wits Academy, and it was incredible. It was so crazy. And you know, it was a cheesy kids show. I got to play the villains, so I had lots of glares all the time. But it was kind of a glimpse into how you function as an actor on a set, and that whole process, which was so crazy, so foreign to me. It's nothing like live theater. And then after that, I was auditioning for a long time and I wasn't booking anything. It was the transition between being a teenager, being a kid in the industry, and then being an adult all of a sudden. And people just didn't know what to do with me. And then I didn't book for like a year. And then I booked a one-liner co-star on an ABC show called The Real O'Neills. And my one line was "Sweet Burn." That was it. Just 2 words. And I was dressed as Black Swan because it was a Halloween party. And it was such a fun experience. We had to learn like a Halloween dance because there was like a joke that we were all theater kids who like all know the same dance moves. And so I was actually working for like 4 days just for that one line. And so I got to know the crew and I got to know the cast really well. And so then from that, like 5 months later, out of the blue, one of the casting directors from The Real O'Neills called me and they were like, "Hey, can you come back as a guest star for the Valentine's Day episode?" I was like, yeah, I would love to. And so they just brought me back, and that was the first time that's ever happened to me, and it was incredible, and it was so fun. And I had 5 lines that time, which was great. And then about, I think that was probably almost a year after that, then I auditioned for The Kids Are Alright on ABC. And I had never auditioned for that casting director before, and I knew it was a big deal show. It was just auditioning for the pilot, and this was the last role they were casting. This was the last major role. And the audition went really well. It was for a girl from the 70s. I wore my fringe jacket, killed the game. And then I got the call back, and then I booked it, and I was like, holy crap, that's incredible. And then I show up for the table read of the pilot, and this one guy walks up to me, and he looked kind of familiar, and he was like, "Kennedy?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, I'm Chris. I was one of the producers on The Real O'Neills. We loved you so much on that show, you had to be in this one." And I was like, the way the industry works sometimes is insane.
Yeah, and I feel like it's all about relationships too. So how do you really establish a really strong connection and relationship with casting and directors and producers so that they keep calling you in and cast you for different things?
So much of it is the mindset of like auditioning, especially. I found that I enjoyed auditioning when I wasn't thinking about it as far as booking a role. I enjoyed auditioning when I was thinking of it as, oh hey, I've never been seen by this casting director before, I want to meet them. I want them to remember me and I want to get to know them. And then if I have been seen by that casting director before, it's like, oh my gosh, I get to see them again. Like, let's chat, let's try and talk about it. And obviously, I'm not like incredible at conversation. It's not like I'm having 10-minute long conversations with someone before I'm auditioning with them, but like, you can tell when you get more comfortable with a casting director and how all of that works. And so that in itself, a relationship with casting directors is so important because then it makes you feel more secure and more confident in your abilities and how you're doing in the industry. And then when I booked The Kids Are Alright, so much of my mindset, at first I think this was my mindset just as a thing of like self-preservation because I didn't want to focus on my talent. I was just worried that I was going to get like so anxious and so depressed if I was just like so wrapped up in how good I was going to be every episode. But I just started to focus on the crew and the producers every day I was on set, where I was just like, if I just build relationships with all of these people, like I was working with like directors of photography that had done stuff for The Office and Parks and Rec and like every show I had ever worshipped in my life. And like I just went, okay, if I can have honest conversations with these people and they respect my talent and they liked that take that I did, I might be hired again by them and I might get to work with them more. So my priority wasn't, I want to be the best actor on set today or whatever it was. My priority was, if the director said that that take was good, I'm going to trust him, I'm going to believe him, and I'm going to make this shooting day as easy as possible and be prepared so that they're going to want to hire me again.
I feel like you're such a good person to work with. When you are on set, what are some things that you have to kind of take into consideration and watch out for?
Because I was recurring guest star, you work by a weekly contract. You're not like a series regular where you're signed for the season, you know how many episodes you're going to be a part of. As my position specifically, I was just like, you know, some people would tell me that I would be back soon, but it was just a general soon. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. You could change the episode and I might not be back. But it was just waiting. And then like every 3 weeks or so, I would get a call that was just like, hey, are you available in 2 weeks? And I'm like, well, I will be. I am now. Like, and then I would go work for 4 days and it was incredible. But because of that, so much of the crew and cast didn't know how much to get to know me because they didn't know how long I was going to be there. And so it was difficult to adjust to that and just accept that that was going to be the thing. I wasn't going to be as close with everybody, but that was okay. And then the other half was being a young woman on a set. I feel like most women on sets are either categorized as a diva, they're over-sexualized, or they're seen as a little sister who is not respected or sexualized in any way. And so what I saw myself immediately fall into was the little sister, where people treated me well, they weren't trying to hit on me, it was fine, they were, and the crew there was wonderful. They really were really great, but it was interesting to see that I started to fall into that stereotype and I realized I wasn't being respected, where, you know, people weren't doing as much for me as they could have or whatever, and I was, you know, because I was like, oh, they don't need to do that for me, I'll go get it myself once, then I was the one who was doing it every single time, and I just wasn't as respected as I saw the men on set being. Like, it was just assumed that people would do those things for the men on set, but because I was easygoing, I was the little sister, they wouldn't bother with me. And so I learned from Barry McCormick, who was the mother on the show, who has been doing this forever. I learned from her that, like, just watching her on a set, of figuring out how I should be treated, more so than how I was letting myself be treated. So it was interesting to learn that balance, but I feel like by the end of this season, I was really starting to learn, you know, it's great to be easy on a set, but you also have to know where your boundaries are and what your expectations should be. And that takes a long time to get used to. I don't think I'm fully there yet, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. I mean, and I also think that it's so good to have a bunch of women rooting you and by your side on your team. And so when you're looking for people to join your team and work for you and work hands-on, one-on-one with you every single day, what do you look for in those people?
I'm someone who is actually very proud to have an all-female team, an all-female industry team, clearly.
Girl power.
But it wasn't that was necessarily like, I need to have all women on my team. It was just, they're coming into this as especially a very young woman. There was a way that I was respected and treated when I was having, you know, interviews with other women. And so I was really looking for someone who was willing to help me, willing to guide me, because I didn't know what I was doing, but also had enough respect for me that I learned quickly, and that they didn't have to just assume that I wasn't capable. It was just that I was going to figure it out. And so I signed, you know, with my agency, and my agency the entire theatrical department is all female, and they're all wonderful, and my agent Rachel's incredible. And then when I signed with Cheryl, I didn't have a manager for a while, but then as soon as I was like, I think I need a manager, you know, Cheryl popped in and, you know, we had an interview, and I was just like, okay, this is a woman who, you know, knows how to talk to me, but also respects me and just wants to help give me tools to succeed, and wasn't trying to be, you know, super demanding, but at the same time she had plans and she had, you know, a vision for where I wanted, you know, where I wanted to go, and that matched. And then signing a lawyer, and my lawyer's also female, and then I signed an accountant, which was a whole thing. I've learned a lot about taxes and incorporating in the last few months. But having a female accountant is huge. Having someone who doesn't talk down to you about money is incredible. Being able to actually tell my accountant, hi, I don't understand what you just said to me, please talk to me again. She doesn't make me feel like an idiot. And I was like, this is incredible. And so I'm really proud of my whole team. So most of it, because I started so young, what I was looking for was respect.
So yeah, thanks for answering my questions, having this little chat. Do you have any additional words of advice for aspiring actors or people in the industry trying to break in?
Honestly, I've been doing this for 6 years. I know people who have been doing this for 16 years, and I know people who just started this year, and they're all my age. And it's just finding a community of people around you who both understand what you do, but for me specifically, finding a community of people who don't do what you do to keep you grounded, because I feel like a lot of actors fall into this trap of like, acting is all that you are, and that's when it gets really stressful when you don't book, and it hurts so bad when something falls through. When you have a community of people who lets you see that there is more outside of that, even though acting of course is my main goal, being able to breathe outside of that as well has been so beneficial. So in LA it's hard, but having a group of friends who are actors that will help you with self-tapes, that will help you break down a script, but then also having friends outside of that remind you that you are more than an actor as well, is so important. And I hope many people in their early 20s will find those people. That's all.